name is Delana Dobbins, and thank you for joining me today. I wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I am a survivor. I'm also a certified domestic violence advocate in the state of Illinois. I've worked as a domestic violence therapist before. I've worked in a domestic violence shelter before when I was in grad school. So I have a little bit of experience with personal experience and professional experience with domestic violence. So I just wanted to come on and share a little bit. My first experience with domestic violence, thankfully, I did not grow up in a home with violence in the home. That's a blessing. But when I did become exposed to partner violence, I didn't even know. Excuse me, my nose itching. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I was in high school when I first experienced intimate partner violence. And my high school used to have like a teenage retreat. The school would take the kids away for a weekend to something called Operation Snowball. I went to one of the best high schools in the state. I love my high school. I had the time of my life in high school. It's like some of the best experiences. But one of the things that made it great was Operation Snowball. And this was a retreat where we did social emotional learning. We dealt with social issues of the day. So like drug use and addiction, partner violence or domestic abuse, trauma, counseling, coping with anger, right, peer pressure. We dealt with all these types of subjects that are commonly dealt with adolescents or teenagers. And so we were at this weekend and they started talking about like partner violence, and I began to cry so heavily because it gave me language. When them talking about it and doing the skits gave me language to explain the pain that I had experienced. So this is what happened. I believe it started my sophomore year in high school. Up until freshman year in high school, I went to a private school. My mother, I was pretty sheltered. My mother was so kind and used her resources to put me through a Christian school from preschool up through 8th grade. And after 8th grade, I wanted to leave and go to a private school, and she moved to one of the best school districts in the state, and I was able to attend Homewood Flossmoor High School. Go HF, go HF, hey, go HF, go HF. I still love HF so much. Had some great times there. But I was a sophomore in high school, and I had a boyfriend. I ain't gonna say his name, but I will tell you that his personality was such that people nicknamed him Debo. And if you know anything about the movie series Friday, Next Friday and Friday After Next, Debo was a bully. He was bigger than everyone, and people were afraid of him. He took things that were not his, and he hurt people. And so somehow or another, this guy became my boyfriend. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I found out that he liked me and we started going together. And he was aggressive, and he was like I actually lost my virginity to him. But at the time, even before I lost my virginity to him, with him being aggressive, it made me aggressive. But he always disguised it as playing with me. So he would boss me around and tell me, don't do this, don't wear that, or he would insult me, you look stupid, you so dumb. So he was being verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, and physically abusive. But he would describe it as playing. So he would punch me in the arm or punch me in the thigh, right? One of the most intense situations of partner abuse I endured as a teenager was when we were in high school, the kids would come over to my house to catch the bus in the morning for school. My house was on the corner, right across the street from the bus stop. So my parents were gone early in the morning. So me and my friend group would meet in the mornings at my home. And one morning he came over. First, my best friend was there. Her boyfriend was over. And then later on, my boyfriend at the time would come over. And so this is in the 90s. I had on my little Express, I had on like a corduroy jumpsuit that was real cute and some thick tights. And, I thought I was cute. It was a brand new outfit and I was excited to wear it. And he came through the door and he, where the F you think you going? What you got on? You ain't wearing that. And so even though I knew I was cute, he didn't want me to wear it because it was too short. He thought that the skirt was too short and it was above my knee. But again, I was like 14, 15 years old. It was appropriate for school. It wasn't too short. My mother would not have bought it if it was inappropriate. But him being controlling and possessive did not want me to wear it. So he began to insult me and say things like, you can't wear that. Take it off right now. You look fat. You look stupid. Just totally downgraded me. And so that, I never wore that outfit again. That was one instance of very intense verbal and emotional abuse. Then there was another time that he said he was playing and he grabbed my legs and dragged me down the stairs on my butt. And I was in pain for like days. My buttocks was sore. And then, we get down to the bottom of the stairs and I would fight him back. And so one of the misconceptions I had as a teenager was I didn't think it was anything wrong with it because I was fighting him back. In my mind, I know how to fight. I'm not going to let him mistreat me. If he hits me, I'm going to hit him back. So I never considered it to be domestic abuse or partner violence or an abusive relationship. But it was very stressful. I became emotionally hurt many times and physically hurt. One other thing that would happen is I remember intentionally covering bruises. I would get bruises on my thighs and my arms when he would hit me. He never hit me in the face, which was probably another reason why I never considered that it was something wrong with it. And this just wasn't something that was talked about. Nobody really talked about teen violence or relationship violence inside of relationships. So I didn't have language for what I was experiencing. But I remember intentionally covering up the bruises on my arms for school with long sleeve shirts because I did not want the school to think that my mother did it and call me into the school and tell my mother what was happening or accuse my mother of putting those bruises on me, and I didn't want to get in trouble. Somehow I knew enough to do that. And so just based off those 3 examples alone, you can kind of get an idea for how intense this relationship was and how violent and dangerous it was, right? And the intensity of the interactions became more heavy as time went on. I ended up being with this young man for a couple of years, actually, up until maybe at some point at the end of my junior year. There was cheating happening. He was dating another girl at the end of the block. It just was not healthy. And for me, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl who did not have a father, my biological father was passed away, it brought to the surface the issues that come with being in only having a mother who takes care of you. I had a stepfather, but he was not engaged in my life. He was not nurturing. He did not discipline me. He did not provide for me, all those things. He was literally just living in a home and married to my mother. But the heart wounds that would lead me to be attracted to someone who was abusive to me, I think speaks volumes about so many things, right? Family structure, meeting teenage needs, attention, the need for being involved in positive activities, and really just being able to talk to someone, right? And talk about relationships, not having to keep relationships secret because there are rules that you aren't supposed to be in a relationship or whatever. And so when we went to this retreat in high school and I got language for the violence I was experiencing inside of that teenage relationship, I was able to grieve all the things that I lost being and choosing to be in that abusive relationship, not knowing any better, and began to heal. Unfortunately, it shaped my personality as a young woman. I became very hard following that relationship. I began to, for example, when I got to college and I dated someone, and ironically, they both had the same name. His friends or his fraternity brothers in college used to joke around and say, "Oh, Delana beat so-and-so. She beat him." That was the ongoing joke, that I was abusive to my boyfriend in college. So even though I was in a whole nother relationship, my personality was shaped so much by that first violent relationship that I was in, that I was perceived as being an aggressive young woman towards men. And so I just kind of wanted to share that to say, I thank God, number one, for bringing me out of that. And the way he brought me out of it is that while I was in college, later on towards the end of my college career, I started going to church. I got saved, and one of the brothers we were in campus ministry with confronted me. He would say to me, and we went to the same church, whatever, and he's like, "You such a sweet girl." He said, "But sometimes you like turn into this different person." He called the character Delisa. He said, "One minute you Delana, the next minute you turn into Delisa, and Delisa is aggressive. Delisa pushes. Delisa hits. Delisa smacks her lips and rolls her eyes." He began to describe the personification that would come over me of this aggressive young woman who felt the need to defend herself and protect herself, but sometimes wanted to disguise it as playing, but it was over the top and it was unhealthy. And so when he called that out, he said, "I just want you to go and pray about that. Ask the Lord to reveal that to you. And why do you do that? And where did you learn that?" And so I did that. I was able to pray. The other thing that helped me is I had read this book called Sex and the Soul of a Woman at that time. And here I am, I was in my early 20s at this time. And this book, Sex and the Soul of a Woman, began to talk about how as women, when we become sexually intimate, especially outside of marriage, we pick up things from our partners. So the men that we sleep with, we can pick up things from them unintentionally. These are unintended consequences of sexual intimacy outside of marriage. And so one of the things that I picked up from these intimate relationships and ungodly relationships is it changed my personality. It made me violent. It contributed to that. It made me doubt myself. I picked up low self-esteem, all these things. And so once I prayed about it and read this book and God began to shine his light on it, I was able to pray and ask the Lord to soften my heart, to heal the places of the trauma that I've experienced, to deal with the daddy issues, to deal with the self-esteem and the rejection, and the aggression, etc., etc. So couple of things here. Gotta watch your kids, because my mom never knew any of those things were happening with me. She never knew that young man was hitting me, verbally abusing me, emotionally abusing me, that I was having sex. So you got to be able to talk to your kids, tell them about sex, teach them about healthy relationships, make sure they know how to set up boundaries, right? Put them in groups that promote social emotional learning, that promote healthy relationships, that speak to peer pressure and things like that. But also teach them about God's expectations for relationships, right? it's so many things we could pull from that, but primarily I think people should be aware that teenagers do experience domestic violence. Teenagers do experience partner violence, and girls can be perpetrators too, right? So don't be lost to that. Teach your children, boys and girl children, about partner violence and what's healthy, how to be assertive, how to communicate in a healthy way and say what they want, or even how to tell someone if they're being hurt. And so, yeah, so it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I wanted to draw attention and have conversation around healthy relationships, especially for teenagers and especially for people in the church. The scripture says to guard your heart, for from it flows the issues of life. And I think we have, even as parents and community members, we have to teach our young people how to guard their heart. And we have to do the same things. And as the enemy wants to come and bring instances like that, bring trauma, right? Bring pain to us, so that it shapes how we deal in relationships. It shapes how we build our lives. It shapes how we allow God into our hearts, and how we talk to other people. And so it's so much to unpack in that. But I hope that you were able to get something from that. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if you have questions or story that you want to share. Leave it in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll be back later on this month to talk more about domestic violence. I'm going to talk about domestic violence in the church, inside of marriage, divorce. How does God feel about it? I just have a couple of things that that the Lord has put on my heart with regard to intimate partner violence and different types of abuse inside of relationships. So thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. Bye.